them because we're doing them next week. If you want. All right, Maria, you're not muted. Could you, Anyways. So, if you want a positive number, use abs. Yes. Abs for absolute. Make the font. Oh, of course. I was going to just do this. All right, so welcome to Coding Bat. Coding Bat is a collection of warm-up or practice problems. They're very introductory, like they're introductory level, but they're meant to introduce you to the concept of having a word problem, very similar to what our course does, and converting that word problem into code. These are 3 test cases for us to use, and here's the problem here. So parrot trouble, we have a loud talking parrot. That's a nice simple introductory statement. So you're given 2 parameters. The hour parameter is the current hour of time, ranging from 0 to 23. Now I'm assuming 23 is inclusive because there's 24 hours in a day, so there's just a little bit of common sense I have to apply there. We are in trouble if the parrot is talking before 7 or after 20. Return true if we are in trouble. So there's this talking parameter. I'm assuming the talking parameter is just meant, so like, if not talking, then we can't be in trouble. Like, regardless, there's no point in even considering the case where the parrot's not talking, because we can't get in trouble for a loud parrot not being loud. Someone... David really waits until the last minute to get his tutorial up. Like, I genuinely, I don't know why David takes so long, but sorry, I just noticed that message. Apologies, guys. But yeah, you can't get in trouble for a talking parrot if the parrot's not talking. So the first thing I'm going to do, if not talking, return false. I'm not in trouble. Now everything moving forward is under the assumption that the parrot is talking. So if the parrot is talking, we now need to deal with the condition of before 7 or after 20. So if hour is less than 7, that would be implying before 7, or hour is greater than 20. Notice how I said hour greater 20, and I didn't just say like or 20 or something like that. Every part of an or statement is completely unique. When I type this, it's the exact same as me typing it's the exact same as me typing this. And then the exact same thing with the hair. They are 2 different if statements. You can't treat them as if they're one. So, or you still have to state hour regardless. So if the hour is less than 7 or the hour is greater than 20, and we know talking is true, obviously we are in trouble. So we're going to return true. Now I can also use an else block if I wanted to and say return false. However, does it really matter if I have the else block? If this were true, we would have immediately returned. So what I can do is I can just do that, have no else whatsoever. The else keyword is actually optional in that case because the else is implied. However, I can take it a step further. Notice how this is a like if takes in a Boolean. So this will return either true or false. So what happens if instead of having an if statement, I go ahead and delete that and do this? Well, that statement returns true or false. If the statement returns true, then the function should return true. And if this statement returns false, then the function should return false. So it's the exact same thing as what I just wrote. This is why Nick always protests that there are nearly infinite ways to write the same amount of code, because I can write this, return true, else return false, and I can write that. I can also write an else block there and then put it in like that. Whoops. It's the exact same line of code. No matter how you do it, it's all the same thing. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure you guys are kind of getting the general idea of like, pick a style that works for you. Don't feel like this is somehow wrong compared to this, or that this is somehow wrong compared to this. Like, you guys code how you guys feel comfortable, because that's how this course kind of works. If I show a solution, notice they made it a one line. They decided that talking and they realized that this is one statement. If talking and the time is like that, then return the true or false. Because if you're not talking and returns false, if this or this don't return true, then and returns false. So it's the exact same problem. That's like 5 different solutions right there, and it's only been 6 minutes. I'm going to assume the lack of messages in the chat saying, what the hell? I'm going to move on. You are always welcome, though, to go, what the hell, in the chat, and I will gladly go back to it. So let's take a look at combo string. Question number 2 in our lineup. Given 2 strings, A and B, return a string in the form of short, long, short, where the shorter string is on the outside and the longer is in the inside. The strings will never be the same length, but they can be the empty string. So, what I need to do first is I need to identify a short and a long. Then once I have identified a short and a long, we can then assign variables, short and long, and simply return short plus long plus short. So I know at the end of the day, no matter what I do, I'm returning short plus long plus short. The question is, how do I get short and how do I get long? So let's think about that. These are strings, and in Python, one of the great functions we have is called len, L-E-N. It stands for length. If length of A is lesser than the length of B, then we know that short should be equal to A, and long should be equal to B. However, in the case where B is longer than A, short should be B, and long should be A. Now, there is a third case that we don't need to consider when the length of A is exactly equivalent to the length of B. The actual question states this will never occur. So I could ignore this case because the question states I can ignore the case. Now, this is pretty long, and you could be wondering, well, how do I shorten it? Well, again, if you don't like else statements, because there's an actual Python ideology where you can code any bit of code without ever using the word else. And I genuinely believe that. You can do this. Set short to be B and long to be A, and then change them if that ends up not being the case. So, one thing you can also do in this method is you could then do a short, long, long, short swap. Because short is B, long is A. However, if A is shorter, then we need to switch short and long. Again, how you choose to code it, completely up to you. Nothing is a wrong answer except the wrong answer. So the moment you passed all these test cases, you, stylistically speaking, it doesn't matter. You are objectively speaking correct. And that's what this course cares about. Still not seeing any questions, so I think I'm good to move forward. All right, I'm going to start trimming out these additional solutions that I'm doing. Instead, I'm just going to start giving the solution I'm comfortable with. If you guys want a challenge for today, I would recommend going through all of these future questions that I'm about to do and give the same code in 3 different formats. Something needs to change between each format, but try and take the same code and do it 3 different ways. That's always a fun challenge. So what is squirrel play? The squirrels in Palo Alto spend most of the day playing. In particular, they play with the temperatures between 60 and 90 inclusive. Unless it's the summer, then the upper limit jumps to 100. Given an int temperature and a boolean is summer, return true if the squirrels play or false otherwise. So, again, we have 2 conditions. We have if summer is a boolean, so there's a if is summer and an else is not summer. If it is the summer, we need to know if the squirrels play. Remember, returning true or false here, and true and false are determined by temp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return something and something. I don't know what these conditions are, but I know both have to be true in order to be playing. So if it is the summer, I know that the temp has to be greater than or equivalent to 60. And I also know that the temp has to be less than or equivalent to 100. However, if it's not the summer, I know that the temp has to still be greater than or equivalent to 60. But now, instead of 100, it's 90. Now, these are Fahrenheit, not Celsius. So that's one solution. You guys might notice there's a common if statement between them of if temp greater than or equal to 60. This could be pulled out. I'm not going to do that, but as a challenge, maybe try pulling this here or something. Or, I don't know, making a if statement up here or something of that nature. Just try and fiddle around. See what you guys can do. I'm gonna move forward, but those are just some hints of things that you can do because the logic is shared between the two. So if the temperature is 38, regardless of if it's summer or not, you know the squirrels will not play. Let's take a look at lucky sum. Ooh, this question actually sounds pretty fun. Given 3 int values, a, b, and c, return their sum. However, if one of the 3 values is equivalent to 13, it will not count. And the value immediately to its right does not count. So if a is 13, both a and b do not count. If b is 13, both b and c do not count. And if c is 13, only c does not count. This is going to be a fun one. So the first thing I can immediately do is I know that there is some sort of sum value. Whoops, I didn't mean to go full screen there. There's some sort of S, which is the sum of A, B, and C. That part's obvious. What's not obvious is what do I subtract? So if A is equivalent to 13, sum should be minus A and B. So whatever A and B gives you, you want those numbers to be subtracted from the sum. Similarly, if B is 13, then the sum shouldn't include B or C. Third, if C is 13, the sum shouldn't include C and only C. Now, I typed this out. However, this wouldn't be correct. Can someone identify why is it a minus equals instead of an equals equals? There it isn't. This is S minus equal. So this is the same as saying S equals S minus B plus C. You guys should have already learned minus equals by now, so. I would hope you guys have learned minus equals by now. All right. So can someone tell me the situation in which this code isn't correct? Because this is the most common solution I see to this, and every time I have to say no. If none of them are 13, would that be incorrect?
If all of them are 13, or like if multiple of the values
are 13. That's exactly correct. Because if A, in A's case, it already subtracted B. So if B is also 13, you'll be subtracting B a second time. So that's why this situation doesn't work. You kind of have to go the other way. You need to start at 0, and if A is not 13, you can add A, and you can add B as long as B isn't 13. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say S and plus equals. You guys should know plus equals is the exact opposite of minus equals. So A plus equals, or sorry, S plus equals A. And then if B is not 13, then we can do S plus equals B. Now this is technically more correct. So now we have to identify the 3 different situations. So that's situation A, lol. Now, what if B is not 13? Well, we can add B, however, we've already done it here. Now you've created another loop. This is the danger of questions like this. If you try and look at the question in pieces like this, you're just going to end up getting a bunch of garbled garbage. You need to remember the question as a whole. So that being said, let's give a correct answer this time, should I? I'm going to stop. Can you explain that again about both being 13? Let me quickly bring back this. So what happens when I give the inputs 13, 13, 1? So this would have been A plus B plus C. 13 plus 13 is 26, plus 1 is 27. Now A equals 13, so we're going to take A plus B, which is 26, and we're going to subtract it from S. Now B is also 13, so we're going to take 13 plus C, which was 1, which is 14, and we're going to subtract it from X. S was 1 in this case, now it's negative 13 in this case. So what we've done is we've actually duplicated or subtracted the same number multiple times. So we need to break this down to the parts. If A is equal to 13, then we only care about the situation where we only care about C. Return C if C is not 13. Or, else 0. This is a ternary statement. They're ugly. It's the exact same as saying this. If C does not equal 13, we're going to return C. Else, we're going to return 0. Because if A is 13 and C is 13, we can't add anything. because B is excluded by A, and C has no value. In the case where A is not 13, what we can do is we can say S equals A. We know that S is allowed to have A as a variable. Now we can look at the situation where B is 13. If B equals 13, we're done. We can just immediately return A, because if B is 13, C, which is to its right, needs to be excluded. However, if B is not 13, S plus equals B, and we get to our final case, where if C equals 13, return S, and if C is not 13, return S plus C. Now this case has apparently been a problem, so A equals 13, C does not equal 13, so it should return C. What? Why is that? Someone see why this is?
Someone said,
do you have to set S to 0 at the beginning? Well, that's a good question. I don't think I have to, because S isn't referenced in this block. It's only referenced in this block. And there's no point in saying S equals 0, then S plus equals A, because I know A is allowed to be in the sum. Does that make sense? I'm just skipping. I'm skipping the case where I say S equals 0, S plus equals A, regardless. Now, I could rewrite this entire code to return S like this, and then do S equals 0 at the top, and just do S plus equals C. Then here it would be S plus equals A. Then we would take a look at negating that. And then this case would be, so we need to negate that, and we'd have to do that. I mean, significantly less lines of code, but it's still the same problem. Why is this guy an issue? That's what I'm trying to find.
Hello?
Hello.
I think it's because it says all the values to the right do not count, not just the next one.
Does it say all?
I was wondering that as well.
Oh, B and C do not count. Ha, I see. Badooch. No. Yeah, that's a matter of me misreading the question. I thought it was just immediately to its right. So I think I've overcomplicated this now. But all you need to do is else return S. And then you can just keep returning at various points. I apologize. I didn't see that. Basically, anytime one of these is not true. So if A equals 13, then we just immediately return, actually. So let's check the flow. If A is 13, apparently we count nothing. So that works. If it's not, we add A to the sum. If B is not 13, then we can add B. If it is, immediately return. That's what is expected. If C is not 13, add C, else immediately return. And that's all of the tests. Well, I feel like an idiot. And that just, you know what? No, I'm going to turn this into a good thing. That goes to show you guys, no matter how good of a coder you are, if you can't read the question, you're screwed. Because, yeah, just that one sentence. All you have to do is misread this one sentence, and there's your grade gone. If one of the values is 13, then it does not count, and the values to its right do not. That's just a bit crappily worded. A sentence like this, I guarantee, would not make it into an assignment. I would know because I have rewritten all of the assignment questions for this year, roughly. If I wanted to portray this, I would say and all, and I would legitimately bold the word all, like and all of its values to the right do not count. I would make it explicitly clear because this can be misread way too easily. Well, apologies. Here's the monster of code. I'll give you guys a second to look at that. One person did ask, why hasn't A does not equal B or does not equal 13 been specified? It's the else. If A was not 13, we would just move straight into this. And in fact, one thing I can do is I could delete that. If A is not equal to 13, I go into this if statement, else I'm just returning S. This is more consistent now because every if statement has a matching else case. In fact, I can now delete every else case, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, that still works. Because in every situation where there's an else, you immediately return S. Anyways, I have a feeling that I have failed that question so many times that you're all sick of seeing it. So let's do the easiest question in this rotate left 3. This is by far the absurd, like most easy question here. I'm going to do it in one line. I'm going to immediately return, if my list is item 0, item 1, item 2, whatever the value is, my list becomes item 2, item 3, item 0. So all I'm going to do is literally nums. However, I don't know if Nick spoke to you guys. This is a number, which means add is actually the addition sign. I want this to be concatenate, so I need to wrap those in a list. Boom. Nice and easy. If you guys hate concatenate, I know a lot of students hate concatenate because it's confusing. You can make a dummy list variable like this, and then you can just do dummy list.append, and you could do nums1 and nums1, nums2, nums0, and you could return the dummy list without any appending. That also is the exact same answer. If anything, I think this is cleaner. You can also, since we know it's fixed values, we can just build the list like so. This is another way. Exact same answer. And I'll give one more way because you guys should know how to do this by now. Nums, and I'm going to use list slicing. I'm going to start at the second element, which is index 1, and I'm going to go to the end of the list, and then I'm going to concatenate that with a list only containing the head. So that's 4 different solutions right there. You guys, again, take your pick. You will always have the freedom of choice. That being said,
sorry,
Lisa.
Could you mention? Sorry, this is a bit of a naive question, but what type of what is the type of nums?
The type of nums is so. This is one of the worst parts because although this is a Python question, CodingBat was designed for Java. So all of the questions will use Java terms like array. An array in Java is a list, like in Python, but only of one data type. So every item in the list must be an integer.
Okay.
Now, again, Python doesn't have arrays, they have lists. So when you see array, assume it's just a list.
Okay. And I was also wondering why you don't have to prompt the user for input.
It's passed in right here, nums. You see how it says def rotate left nums? Nums is a variable given to the program. You will never have to ask the user for it because when they call the function, they were supposed to pass something in. So Python
Oh, I see. Okay.
so coding that has given lists right here in the test cases. Rotate left, here's
Right.
a sample test, that's its output.
Okay, got it.
I will reiterate a fact I brought up yesterday. If you do this list input like that, if you did this on an assignment, you have failed that question on the assignment. You will give an automatic 0. The autograder for the assignments are exactly like this website. We have based everything around coding that. Why did that turn off? But we based everything literally around coding that. That one section, expected run, and how it says okay with a green box or a red box, that's how our autograder actually works. So you need to code as if you're on this website, because that's what we've based everything off of. Okay, now, this is so far the only question that's been requested in the chat from what I can see. So if you guys have more questions, go right ahead. After this, though, the floor opens up to question and answer. So, list 2, centered average. I've never even seen this question, so this is going to be a genuine first. Return the centered average of a list, it's an array, but oh well, of integers, which we'll say is the mean average of the values, except ignoring the largest and smallest values in the list. If there are multiple copies of the smallest value, only ignore one copy. If there are multiple copies of the largest value, do the same. Use integer division to produce the final Wow, this is a full question. Okay, step 1. We can't do anything if the list is not sorted. We need to know the max and we need to know the min. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to assume that nums is a list. I'm going to assume it can also be a tuple. So what I'm going to do is nums equals sorted nums. This is a built-in Python function. You guys could also use nums.sort if you are more comfortable using that. Both do the exact same thing. So I'm going to say nums is the sorted list of numbers. Now that way, I can then say from 1 to -1. What this does is it will sort it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 100. Then it says, all right, now starting after the first item and ending right before the last item. So it will only include 2, 3, and 4, which is what we want. Next, I'm going to build some sort of sum, because I need to keep track of values. Then 4 elements in nums. I'm going to say sum plus equals whatever that element is. And finally, I'm going to return s integer divided, because the question specifically says use integer division. So integer divided by the length of nums. That's what mean means. It's the sum of these items divided by the total number of items that appear. So 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 3 is 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. If we were to look at it this way, 10 is the largest item, so 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 5 is 11, plus 8 is 19, plus 7 is 26. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 26 divided by 5. Integer division is 5. It's 5 point something. However, we don't care about that point something. Very same thing with this. Again, it's already sorted for us, so -10 and 0 are ignored. So these are our numbers. -4, -2, it's -6, -4 is -10, -12. -12 divided by 4 is -3. The answer is -3. If I run it, that's the answer. Now, I'm sure someone has a question about this one. Someone's got to have a question about this one. Because this is an intimidating question.
Can you explain what the purpose of element is?
It's the items. So in the list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, when I say for element in nums or for num in nums, I can call this variable whatever I like. That's every
Oh, it's a variable.
number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For in list. That's the general form of a for loop. And then what it does is num becomes 1, gets added to s. Then num becomes 2, gets added to s. Then num becomes 3, gets added to s. Then 4, add to s. Then 100, add to s. That's just an example. That's not actually what's happening because remember, I popped 1 and 100 out of the list. Anyone else? I've been coding for too long. I've got so much knowledge to impart. No. In that case, if anyone has another practice problem that they want covered, speak now or forever hold your peace. Because at this point, it's open to question and answer. Because that's all Nick had to really cover. How'd you take things out of the list? String slicing. You guys have covered this 3 times now in lectures, so I need to be under the assumption that you guys fully understand this. Should we try doing all of these? You guys, before the end of assignment 4, maybe assignment 5, but by the end of assignment 4, you should be able to do every question on this website. If you cannot, that is a red flag. You guys should then seek help. I'm saying that because we don't hold back. Like, moving forward, after assignment 6, no punches held. In this wrestling match, it's a fight to the death. I always say that because I have students, they finish the first test. This normally has multiple tests. This year, there's only 1 test, so you guys don't get that luxury. If you get to the test, you bomb the test, you get to assignment 7, it's abnormally hard. Everyone always, they always realize that because at a certain point, after roughly assignment 4, assignment 5, we stop holding your hand and we actually start genuinely getting to coding problems. The mercy of this course definitely is like right at the end. It just drops. I hate to sound like an ass for saying it, but it has caught a large group of students off, like it has caught them out of left field so many times. And all I have to say is, I warned you, because that's all I can say. I don't think there's still 10 minutes. I would hate for us to sit here in silence.
It's not like a course content related question, but I was wondering how far in advance the assignments are usually released.
So right now, Nick is talking about collecting the assignments on the Monday immediately before lecture.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, I would expect, because you guys are supposed to have the entirety of the week to work on it. So if
Okay.
we're supposed to give you 7 days, you can expect them to be released either the Sunday night
Yeah.
or sometime on the weekend.
Okay. And I was also wondering, like, so right now we have 2 assignments that are due, like
Yeah.
the coming Monday. I was wondering, those 2 assignments, are they based, like, I'm not sure how to word this, like the assignments that are due, are they based on the content from up to the previous week or from up to the 2 lecture that just happened? Do you know what I'm asking?
It's really a coin toss.
Okay, sure.
Sometimes they'll be on content you've never seen because they're trying to teach you how to Google concepts.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll be items from 3 weeks ago, and you'll be
Okay.
wondering why the heck you're seeing them.
Okay, sure.
Why is it not 0 to 3? What question is this? Front 3. Is that from string 1 or string 2? That's not from either of the strings. It's warm-up 1. Front 3. Given a string, we'll say that the front is the first 3 characters of the string. If the string length is less than 3, the front is whatever is there. Return a new string in which is 3 copies of the first. Okay, so if len str less than 3, return str times 3. So you had that first part, I'm pretty sure. And you also did equals 3. That's perfectly valid. Else, you then did the length of the string from 0 to 3, non-inclusive. That is 3 characters. Why is it? Let me see if I can find out. Yeah, the way you have it now should be perfectly valid. I'm just going to use times 3, but Adnan, I don't know what to tell you, but it's very much 0 to 3. I can. Even doing that still works. The 3 is non-inclusive, yes. So it's 0, 1, 2. So the reason it's not inclusive is because that's based off the range formula, where it gives a start and an end, and the end is actually equal to end minus 1. I don't know why Python does minus 1. I've never been able to explain it, but they just do. Now, I can actually see why Python would do that now that I think, because if I want from 0 to 3, 3 minus 0 is 3. So I expect 3 characters. So when you word it like that, it does kind of make sense. Similarly, if I were going from 4 to 7, I want 4, 5, and 6. 7 minus 4 is 3 characters. I only expect 3 characters starting at 4. That is the only explanation I could imagine Python going with.
I was wondering about the capping for the like the assignment grades. I was wondering, are individual assignments also capped, or is it just the category as a whole?
The
like
category.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
If you get 312% on an assignment, you have
Right.
aced 3 assignments.
Okay.
You laugh. Assignment 10, you can get well over 200%.
Oh, that's very helpful.
Can I email you if I've got a problem with one of my codes? Sure. Or you can go to Piazza and create a private post, and then all of the TAs could answer it, not just one. It's really up to you. I do want to get you guys comfortable with Piazza. I'm going to keep praising it until the day I die. It is a lovely platform. This was last year. There are private questions. I, of course, can't click on them because they're private. But there's public questions. Here's one of the answers I did. You can see exactly who answered your question. You can see when we modified the answers. Stuff like that. It's a great platform. Genuinely, 100% lovely. If it's on the assignment, you can still upload it privately. The only people who can't cheat on an assignment are the TAs. Also, I'm going to kill the recording because I have a feeling we're done with the really hard questions.